On December 14th, 2019, I started a brand new medication called Trikafta that has literally changed my life. I am making this video first and foremost for myself, but in a very close second is I am making this video for the entire cystic fibrosis community. This medication is so new, and cystic fibrosis already is such a small community that I feel almost like I have a responsibility to talk candidly about my experiences on this groundbreaking medication. And I feel like I have such a privilege and an honor to have an audience and people who are willing to listen to me and my experiences that I just feel like this is something that I have to do. So I'm going to be talking off the cuff. I don't have a script, I don't have anything prepared, which may not be a good idea. But I'm just going to talk very openly about the things I am experiencing on this medication. I also have tea because tea is my comfort drink and I'm gonna need it. I have talked openly about my experiences with cystic fibrosis so much on this channel. I don't want to beat a dead horse, but if you would like more information on it, I'll link some videos so you can learn more about it if you aren't already familiar with it. But long story short, it is a genetic pulmonary lung disease. It is progressive, which means it gets worse as you get older. And within the past few years, there have been incredible and amazing leaps and bounds in the science treating cystic fibrosis to the point where this new medication came out called Trikafta, and I like to call it Cure Light because that's what it feels like. And what Trikafta is, it is a CFTR modulator. It actually goes into the genes themselves and tries to correct what is wrong. It's funny to talk about because it feels like science fiction. It feels unreal what this medication can do. It's stuff that I've always wondered about, like why can't they just fix my genes? And the answer has already been the same, that it can't do that, it's not possible, we're working on the science behind it. And I live in a time where it actually happened, and there's a medication out for it now, and I'm taking it, and it's literally changed my entire life. That is insane, it is crazy, it is, I have a lot of feelings about it, and those feelings are what I want to talk about today. I will not be going too deep into the technical aspects of it. I can in a future video if you would like, but what is more important to me and what I feel more passionately about is how I am emotionally dealing with this. So I'm going to break this video into 3 parts. We are going to talk about the good, we are going to talk about the different, and we are going to talk about the complicated. If I could sum up my feelings toward this whole experience in one word, it would be complicated. Obviously, I feel so lucky and so privileged and so grateful to be on this medication, but with all those feelings comes more complicated feelings that I don't know what to do with. But I also feel like a lot of other people could probably be experiencing them too, and that is, why I want to talk about it. This is a very weird thing that we're all going through, but we're going through it together, and we are the first ones. I was talking to someone from the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation a while back, and we kind of talked about how it's almost like we're the guinea pigs for this whole new era of cystic fibrosis patients, and I feel like I'm grateful for that. I'm so happy to be one of the first people on this medicines, not only because it's great and it's life-changing, but because I feel like I can take my experiences and share them with other people and hopefully make stuff better for the people who are coming after me. So anyway, that was a long intro, let's get into it. So I want to start out this video positively. What are the good things that have come from this? And honestly, there are so many. I don't even know where to begin. I'll start with the biggest one. Before Trikafta, every 3 to 6 months, I would get a really bad lung infection and I would need to go into the hospital to get what is called a CF tune-up. I've made videos from the hospital in the past. I've shared this with you guys all the time. I've even talked about how normal it is and how much of a non-issue it was for me just to go to the hospital because it's routine, it's normal, it's something that my body does. My body breaks down a little bit over time and I need to go get it fixed. Since being on Trikafta for 6 months, I have not even felt like I needed to go to the hospital at all. I've not even felt like I had a lung infection, and toward the end there, I was on antibiotics and fighting off infections more than I was off. I would be stable for 2, maybe 3 weeks before I needed to get back on antibiotics for like 2 months at a time. I haven't been on antibiotics since I started taking Trikafta. That is unheard of. I haven't felt like this ever. I've never felt like this. I've never felt this good in my entire life. I wake up in the morning and I don't need to cough. Every morning waking up before Trikafta, I would spend an hour and a half doing breathing treatments and coughing until I threw up because I would have so much stuff in my lungs. I don't do that anymore. I can wake up and I can just start my day. And that is so mind-blowingly life-changing. And I didn't realize how exhausting that was, to have to wake up and not be able to do anything until I have this time where I'm literally throwing up and just, it's insane. I have more energy than I've ever had before. I can do so much more. I can exercise easier. The physical aspects of this medication are so insane. It's crazy. It's insane. My lungs feel like they are capable of so much more. In fact, the first few months on this medicine, I actually got really tired because I was doing so much more than I ever have. My muscles were sore because I was up walking around more than I have been in the past, 2 or 3 years? My body was sore just from doing everyday things because I haven't been able to do those in so long. My lungs feel like they are capable of so much more. In fact, the first few months on this medicine, I actually got really tired because I was doing so much more than I ever have. My muscles were sore because I was up walking around more than I have been in the past, 2 or 3 years? My body was sore just from doing everyday things because I haven't been able to do those in so long. About 2 years ago, I went to Disney World with my family and I was unable to walk around without a wheelchair. I needed to be in the wheelchair the entire time because my body was incapable of carrying me the whole way. I went to Disney World again in the beginning of this year. I didn't need a wheelchair at all. In fact, I had almost more energy than my husband did, which is weird. My body is just different. My body feels so different. It looks different. I feel different. And that leads me into segueing, what is different? What's different? Everything is different. It's so different that it's hard to put into words, but my body is different. Looking at my body, I almost don't recognize myself. My body is capable of so much more that it feels weird. It almost feels like I'm not myself. Another thing is I have gained a lot of weight. Cystic fibrosis makes it difficult for you to gain weight, and it's something that I've always struggled with. I've always been underweight. Now all of a sudden, I have fat and muscles where I've never had that before. I was so severely underweight that you could see bones in my body that you shouldn't have been able to see. But that was so normal to me, and it's always been a struggle, but it's always something that I've just dealt with. I've always just been underweight. And within 6 months, I've gained like 15 pounds, which when you already don't weigh a lot, that's a lot. It's a lot. And on one hand, I'm so happy because I don't have to struggle with my weight anymore. Like, I am a healthy weight. But on the other side, I don't recognize my body when I look at it. It doesn't feel like my body because it looks so different. And it's hard to mentally, it's difficult mentally to gain weight. So much of society is like gain weight equals bad. So now I have fat and muscle where I haven't before, and it's hard for me to not look at that and like it. I should like it. I should like the extra fat on my body. I should be appreciative that I have some more weight and I don't have to struggle with it anymore. But I still do. I still do in the opposite direction now. I feel like I'm too heavy. I feel like that's a little too much weight. I feel like, should I diet? Is that something I should do? And objectively, if I take myself out of the equation, I know, no, I shouldn't diet. I'm a healthy weight. I'm at a healthy BMI for the first time in like 5 years. Like, I'm fine, but it's still a struggle. It's still a struggle mentally and something that I'm trying to work through. What else is different? I had to teach myself how to breathe again. I had been so used to breathing a certain way my entire life because my lungs were incapable of taking in a complete breath. Watch this, watch this. Are you guys ready? I've never been able to do this like this before. Are you ready? Oh my God. I did that without coughing. That is new, that is different, and that is a very good different. But it's still different. Before, I had to take such short, shallow breaths because that's all I was capable of doing. And the more my lungs started reacting to this medicine, the more I realized that way of breathing wasn't going to work anymore because I would do the slightest amount of physical activity and I would get lightheaded and almost pass out because I'm breathing like, because that's what I've always had to do before. I still struggle a lot if I laugh really hard and send myself into a laughing fit. My lungs almost spasm because my lungs don't know how to deal with that intake of breath. So it's weird. It's a very weird feeling that I feel like I have new lungs. I feel like I have new lungs and it's different. Now, this is kind of the core of the video, the reason that I wanted to make this, and that is the complicated feelings of being on this medicine. And I want to talk very frankly and very candidly, but I am a little scared about it because I feel like talking about these emotions, I don't want to come across like I'm not grateful. I'm so grateful for the fact that I'm on this medication, but I'm struggling a lot on it. I'm struggling a lot. When you've lived your life a certain way for so long, and then all of a sudden it turns on its head and your life is so different, it's really hard to come to grips with. It's really hard. I grew up my whole life with my doctors telling me that I had a set life expectancy. That's something that, hey, if you do all your treatments, if you take all your medications, and if you do everything right, you could live to this age. Now, that age has fluctuated over time. When I was younger, it was 30. Last year, it was 45. But it's always been there, and it's always been lower than the average life expectancy. And I'd come to grips with that, right? That's something that my doctors told me, I think when I was 10. I was really young. But they do that so you can come to grips with it, so you can mentally prepare for it. And I'm glad that they did, because I had come to grips with my own mortality, basically. I knew that that was just the way life was going to be. And I could talk about it, you know, fine. Like, that's just a fact of life. I'm probably going to live to around 45 if I'm lucky, if the stars provide, if I do everything right, I'm going to live to 45. And hell yeah, I'm going to make those 45 years great. That was my mentality. Like, I'm going to live it up to 45. I don't know how to express how much of a mindfuck it is to suddenly be like, that life expectancy before, all those years you spent preparing for that, yeah, that's probably not true anymore. We don't know. We don't know what's true anymore. We don't know. This medication that you're on, it's changed everything, and we don't know. we don't know what's gonna, we just don't know. And so much of this medication is we don't know, because we are the first people to be on it. And like I said, I'm so grateful for that. But there's so much unknown. We don't know how this is going to affect us long term. We've never had to think long term before. CF doctors have now had to start talking to CF women about menopause. Menopause is not something that I've ever prepared us for, because they never thought we would get to menopause. And now it's something we have to think about. And that's awesome. but it's also so scary. I feel whenever people talk about this, about Trikafta, and about the amazing things it does, which they should talk about the amazing things it does and the amazing science and giving people more years to live. But I feel like not a lot of people talk about the other side of that and how scary it is to suddenly have decades ahead of you that you've never prepared for. I now have to think beyond 45, which again is great. But when you've spent so long preparing for one thing, for one way of living, and then all of a sudden the entire world opens up to you, I feel lost. I feel lost and I feel overwhelmed and scared. I feel like I've been in survival mode basically my whole life, you know? I spend every day just day by day, taking it day by day, not thinking too much about the future because for one, I don't know when the future will be. I've never really thought about a future. I've just been like, okay, make it past today, make it past today, make it past this infection, make it past this hospital stay, and as long as you just keep making it past, you'll be fine and you'll get there, and you know, and then one day you'll die. And now I'm not preparing myself for anything. I don't have to make it past this next infection because I don't see that on the horizon anymore. I can't measure time between hospital stays anymore because I don't even know if I will need one. Hospitals had become almost a comfort to me because it was such a steady thing in my life. It was such a constant. And no matter how many times I'd move or where I would go next, we move around a lot, but no matter where I was, the hospital setting was always relatively the same, and that had become comforting. It had become comforting to eventually be like, okay, I'm done, I'm too sick, send me to the hospital, and I'll have 2 weeks where I can just feel better and get everything in line again. And that had been stability. And it's kind of weird to say that, right? Because usually you don't think of a hospital as a stable situation because that's when your health is unstable. But it had been a comfort and stability and something that I could count on. I don't think I can count on anything right now. And I feel like I've lost that. I feel like I've lost a lot of things that make me me. And if I think about that objectively, I know that's silly. I'm still me, and in fact, I'm probably more me than I've ever been because I'm capable of doing so much more. But when you live your life, and illness is such a big part of your life, you tend to make that who you are. And that's not bad. I've never thought that was a bad thing. Chronically ill people are constantly bombarded with this phrase, you know, don't let your illness define you. And I've always said how I don't quite agree with that phrase because when you're ill, when you're chronically ill, you are shaped by your illness. It's a part of you, it's a part of who you are, and it's not a bad thing. It's not bad to have some points in your life that are defined by illness. That's just who you are. But what happens when that defining factor is gone? When something that you've lived your whole life around, something that you've planned around for so long, is just gone? It's like, what am I left with? And the answer is I don't really know. I'm left feeling like I don't really know who I am right now. Am I still chronically ill if I don't feel it? I know I still have cystic fibrosis, but do I belong in the community anymore? And how do I juggle with the fact that there are still so many people with cystic fibrosis even struggling because they don't have access to this medication. How can I feel happy about it and also so guilty about it at the same time? And what do I do with these feelings of being proud of who I am and proud to be a chronically ill woman? And now I no longer feel chronically ill, and the things that I admired about myself, I feel aren't applicable anymore. I admired how I dealt with my illness and how I talked about it and how I worked through it. And I feel like those strengths are void now. And instead, I feel lost and weak and scared. And I don't feel like myself. And it feels bad to talk about because I should be grateful, and I am grateful. It's just hard to juggle all these emotions, and that's why it's so complicated. But I feel like if I feel like this, there are probably other people who also feel like this, who are also juggling with feeling grateful versus feeling complicated. And maybe you don't know how to put it into words, because I didn't for a while. I was just feeling horrible about myself and I didn't know why. But I just wanted to make this video because you're not alone, and because I'm not alone. And this is a part of chronic illness that I've never had to deal with before, and so many other people haven't had to deal with, because we are the guinea pigs, we are the trailblazers for this. We don't have articles about how to deal with this yet, because it's so new, but I just think it's so important to talk about it. And just to let other people know that it's okay to feel like this. At least I think it is. I just feel like I can't possibly be alone. And to anyone out there who's struggling with these feelings, these very complicated and weird feelings, that you're not alone either. And we can feel weird together. It doesn't make these feelings go away, of course. Talking about them won't make them go away. But I think it's an important conversation to have. And I think it's important to not feel alone. Anyway, wow. I didn't expect to get that emotional during all this, but there you have it. That is my update for being on Trikafta. I wish it could have been more uplifting, and that's why I put the good stuff at the beginning. But with everything with chronic illness, I think it's important to not only talk about the good. It's also very important to talk about the different and the complicated. Not even necessarily bad, just complicated. I feel like a new person. For good and for complicated, I feel like a new person. I feel different, and I guess now I just need to focus on what different means going forward, which, like I said before, is scary, and it gives me anxiety. But that's okay, because that's what I have to deal with now. That's what I have to focus on now. Focus. What do you do now? And it's never been so wide open before. And that openness, that unknown, that possibility is frightening, but it's also exciting. It's also good. It's also good. Having more possibility than ever before is a good thing, ultimately. And that's what I'm trying to remind myself. But yeah, I'm just rambling at this point. I'm unsure how to end this video now. But thank you guys for listening to me. You've always been a great outlet for me to share my experiences with, so I appreciate that. And for anyone else with CF, on Trikafta or not, who is watching this, I'm with you. We're a family, we're a community, and we've got each other's backs, so feel free to message me if you have anything that you want to talk about, because I'm here and I understand. And even if you don't have CF, if you relate to any of this with chronic illness or anything, my inbox is always open, and I always love when people reach out to me and talk to me about, you know, what they're going through. It's something that makes me feel good and fulfilled. It makes me feel like I'm making a positive impact. So thank you guys for allowing me to do that and listening to me. I'm gonna end the video here. If you have any questions about anything I talked about, also let me know. If you would like me to elaborate on some things, I may make more videos about this, about Trikafta. If you're curious about like how it actually works, because I didn't really talk about that much, or my physical experiences being on it. I actually did do a bunch of vlogs about the first few days on it and how that impacted me. This was kind of more like an emotional side of the video, but if you would like a physical video about the physical changes in my body, not just the mental, I could do that. Gosh, yeah. I was also thinking about doing a video on how much of a complete mindfuck it is to be chronically ill and then have this medication, and then also, whoops, a pandemic happened. If you would like my insight on that too, I mean, I could give it. But anyway, that's going to be it for today. I've rambled enough. I love and appreciate every single one of you. Stay safe, wear a damn mask, and I will see you next time. Bye guys.